My bet is Carolina plus 5.5 points. Play the clip from week 1 that said, let's never bet on the Carolina Panthers. We bet on the Carolina Panthers. We lost by 40 points. But we got a new quarterback.
You said never Bryce Young.
Never Bryce Young. So new QB, Andy Dalton is a massive upgrade. And we talked about this in week 1 with Brissett versus May, right? Like the veteran quarterbacks, Minshew. I think Minshew is a strong quarterback for Vegas. If you're just talking about covering a number, laying 6 points, 5.5 points. Are you out of your mind? The Raiders have 48 yards in the first half. They were horrific. And then they got into a passing situation. They got a couple PIs, and they win this game on paper. On the other side, are the Panthers bad? Yes. I've been saying that the roster is bad. But this is your classic. These are NFL players, not college players. And as bad as an NFL roster, this team would face Texas on a neutral, not the Texans, the Texas Longhorns. If Bryce Young was starting this week, and they lost by 42 to the Raiders, which they probably would, First Take would say, could Texas or Georgia beat, the Carolina Panthers? And the Panthers would still be 82-point favorites in the game because the difference between NFL and college is so drastic. These are pros. This is the most classic spot. And I almost want us to lose because I think that the Saints are going to cover and I think the Cowboys are going to cover. So I wish I was taking the Raiders. So now, as we discussed, my mind is in a pretzel. But Dalton plus 5.5 against the Raiders is insane to me.
Time to argue about a half point for another 4 hours.
Is that a big number? Is 6 a key? Yes. I know it's a meaningful number, but it's a super key number here.
How about Philly Atlanta on Monday night? It really should have been with the Barkley. If Atlanta doesn't come back and score, it was 5.5 was the key number there. So 6 to 5.5.
Yeah, no, it and then it didn't make a difference. So Andy Dalton driving down 75 yards in a minute and a half. We'll see it on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not. And I have this sickness where if I know a number was out there and I didn't get it, I am sick to my stomach and I nearly can't bet it. So I was lucky enough to get Carolina at what we get at 6.5, 7, 6.5.
7 when it opened.
I got 7. Yeah,
it was quick.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I get your thought process, and over time, that's going to be a winning strategy. But I would still like you have to remember that opener was on Bryce Young, right? So I would even argue that I'd play this down to 3.5. Like, what is the gap between Andy Dalton and Bryce Young right now? I think it's more than 1.5. I would say it's at least 2.5. Also, Dave Canales, who came over here from Tampa with Baker and, previously had success in the league, give him a good player and let's see what this guy can cook with. I think at this point,
what he did with Baker Mayfield, I would argue, Andy Dalton in his prime, obviously past his prime, but he was a better quarterback than Baker.
Right,
I think at this point, they're fairly similar. We saw Dalton make one start last year for the Panthers. 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I mean, it's got to be a significant upgrade. I think saying, 3 points is a little absurd, despite your Bryce Young hate. I think that's a little much for a 36-year-old Andy Dalton coming off the bench cold. I can't directly correlate, but it feels a little high, maybe a point and a half.
It's worthless to have this conversation, but I just need to stamp it. Bryce Young is horrific. He can't see. He's miserable at the sport. I think he's a nice kid. I feel bad saying it, but I can confidently say 3 points. The gap between him and any quarterback in the NFL. The only one that's worse is Malik Willis. And Malik Willis came in and, he threw for 100 yards and got a dub. So I think it's a big upgrade.
38 quarterbacks have seen one snap this year. Bryce Young ranks 38th.
How much credit are we giving to Canales now that Baker is hooping without him?
Honey.
I think this point is nearly moot because their problems are clearly so beyond any coach, any quarterback. The question is, will it help a little bit, Andy Dalton? I think absolutely, yes. But
yeah, but if the handicap is Canales works well with any usable quarterback, I'm just saying if
Okay,
Baker
so let me
had
give you
dropped
the Baker numbers. Baker played against the worst secondary. This secondary for Washington could go down as the worst of all time, and it's not like Baker was dealing against the Lions.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Baker might just be like good getting away from Cleveland hell and Carolina
Right.
hell.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that might kind of be the thing. You know, having Mike Evans and Godwin, like a stable operation. It seems
He wasn't even that bad in Cleveland. Like they were in the playoff hunt.
Right. I mean, they would take him back right now in a heartbeat. No, Jack, I'm good. I think so many people are gonna play this in the contest. I think it's going to be so why this loses, right? If we play the why this loses game, it's just it was like too much of an overreaction between Dalton and Bryce Young, and that Carolina has deep problems beyond Bryce Young.
I think they have deep problems, and that's what I said week 1.
You're right.
And that's why I said we can't bet them week 2 because they lost their best player. I'm not denying that. I think the overreaction is to Vegas. Like, since when are they like a team that should be almost a touchdown favorite? That just blew my mind. If they had lost to the Ravens, what would this spread be?
And it's one of the softest home fields in football, so
Big time.
that helps you out as well.